In this video, we're going to be talking about database triggers. Database triggers are a way of executing a workflow immediately once a change in your database occurs. Essentially, what Bubble does is it watches your database for changes, checks if any of those changes meets a specified trigger condition, and then it runs a workflow off the back of that. It's really useful because it allows you to keep your database synced. We'll jump over into the editor and just go over an example of exactly how these work and how we can set these up. So we're sitting here on the editor of a social network application, and what we want to be able to do is we have a series of posts which any user on our platform can create. And when a post is created, other users on the platform can like a post, and we capture that in a list of users. And what I want to be able to do is when a new user likes a post, I actually want to automatically send a new notification to the person who created the post so that they know that, hey, you got a new person who liked your post. And the way that we can set this up is by using a database trigger. And the reason we want to use a database trigger instead of just a normal workflow is because users can actually like posts from multiple pages on our application, such as on their newsfeed when they see a post or a post that they view on the profile of the user. So we don't want to repeat our workflows, and a database trigger is an example of us being able to build a workflow which does this in one place. So let's go over exactly how to set this up. So I'm in the backend workflows section of our application, and what I want to do is I want to create a new database trigger event. And this one I'm going to call notification new like. The type is going to be a post. And the way I want this to run is the post before changes likes, so that list of users count, is less than post now's likes count. So basically what I'm stating is if a new person likes it, the number of likes has now increased, so that will trigger our database trigger. Now when this occurs, so it goes from 5 to 6, for example, likes, we want to send a new notification. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new thing, being a notification. I'll add the fields, and I'm going to add in arbitrary text, and I'm going to say your post has a new like, exclamation mark. It now has post now changes likes count, so it has now likes. And I'll close that, and then we want to send the notification to the person who created the post. Okay, so that's how we can set up a database trigger. When a new person likes our post, we get a notification informing us that we have a new person who's liked our post. As you've seen, database triggers are incredibly powerful, but there are a number of limitations that you should be aware of before you set them up. The first one is they are very difficult to debug. The reason why is because it's not explicitly triggered anywhere in our application. So figuring out what's going wrong with the database trigger, if it's not executing correctly, can be difficult. The second thing is they run with full admin privileges. So that means if you complete a search within a database trigger, it will return the full set of results without any privacy rules applied. So just be aware of that. And thirdly, a database trigger can't trigger another database trigger or itself, because that leads to an infinite loop. So in our example, if we had another trigger which was watching for changes in the product search field, if the workflow we just set up executes, that second database trigger won't be executed because the change is being made by one database trigger. Relatedly, on that note, if we have a workflow which makes changes to the same thing multiple times in that workflow, so it makes changes to the product description, and then it makes changes to the product description again in that same workflow, the database trigger will only be executed once. Additionally, if we have a workflow which has multiple actions which should trigger the database trigger, so for example, we have one workflow which first changes the product title and then it changes the product description, the database trigger will only run once for the entire workflow.